Hello, Bobby Torres of Frightbox recording here. Now you're probably wondering why I'm recording this video in this empty, huge warehouse space, and I will explain how you can produce more music within your studio faster. But before we get to that, let me give you the backstory on what I'm doing here in the first place. Now, if you've watched any of my videos, maybe my studio rundown or my studio tour video in the past, you know that my studio is nothing more than a glorified project or home studio. I've been renting the same space for 17 years now, and I've been recording out of it for 16 years. It's just a 17 by 17 room, a giant square. Now, like I said, I've been recording out of that room for 16 years, and something weird started to occur around 2018. I noticed that I kept getting shocked within the studio, and also when I would have bands there, they would get shocked as well, like static electricity kind of shocks. Like if it's a dry day, I'm sure you know if you touch something, sometimes you'll get that small shock. Yeah, shocks like that, but just way too often and a little stronger than normal. It became so annoying that I actually, mentioned it to the owner. We had an electrician come, they checked it out, there was nothing wrong with the electrical, and we just couldn't figure out what the problem was. Luckily, over time, it sort of dissipated. It would come back, then it would go away again. It would usually be worse in the winter, but just recently, within the last few months, it's been really bad, like to the point where it's actually affecting my equipment. And like for example, if I go to plug in a microphone, it'll actually make my monitor turn off and on quickly, or sometimes it'll eject my hard drive. In other words, things you don't want to have happen within your studio. Because from what I've learned, static electricity can actually damage equipment, so I had to remedy this situation. So after doing a bunch of testing, I finally figured out what the problem was. Now, even though I've been in my studio for 17 years, it turns out the carpeting, which is ancient from what I could tell, became dry enough where it was actually creating a static buildup within my studio. And what made this worse apparently was back in 2015, we put down just like an area of commercial carpet just to hide the crappiness of the old carpet. And at the time it was okay, but for some reason, I guess the old carpet dried out just enough by 2018 where it was creating this static electricity problem. And again, I didn't figure out that it was actually the two carpets rubbing together until this past month. As a matter of fact, the second I lifted up that second layer of carpet, the static was pretty much a non-issue. It pretty much dissipated completely. But the problem is that the carpet underneath is so nasty. I thought it was maybe from the 90s. I'm actually thinking, especially once I took everything out of the room, that it's probably from the 80s or 70s. Holes, you can see the plywood underneath, it's just really nasty. So what I decided to do was get new carpeting installed within my studio. And this explains why I'm shooting this right here within this giant open warehouse. Imagine recording drums here. Very Zeppelin-esque. Wow. And again, I apologize for that buzzing sound. There's a light back there that's really annoying and creating that buzzing sound. Now, luckily, the owner of the building was cool enough to let me store all of my gear within this space while the new carpet is being installed, and that is why I'm here. Now, as much as it sucked to break down all of the gear, break my rig apart, undo all my wiring and systemization, and lug it all over here, as much as it sucked, I was actually pretty pumped at the same time. And that's what this video is about. Because I'm starting from scratch and rebuilding my entire rig, redoing all of my wiring, I've decided to take my organization and systemization of my studio to the next level. In other words, I'm gonna be templating my studio even more than it was in the past. I figure since everything's broken apart anyway, now's the perfect time to do it. And I have this space to work within where I can, really see what I have, what wires I need, what I need more of, things like that. Now, what really inspired me to do this video is I just saw someone asking about mixing templates within a Facebook group just recently. And just today, while I was here working on my rig, I was thinking to myself, wow, people talk about, mixing templates, mastering templates, plug-in presets, but no one talks about templating their actual studio. In my opinion, it's a topic that's just not covered enough because believe me, it can make a massive difference when it comes to your output as far as music creation is concerned within your studio. And that's what I'm gonna talk a little bit about within this video. Now, I'm gonna be completely honest with you, I am not a neat person by nature. As a matter of fact, I'm actually a slob by nature, especially when I was younger. But as I've gotten older and read more books on business and listened to podcasts, I don't know, for some reason, I just love the whole process of creating systems and being ultra efficient in my work. And my work just happens to be a studio guy. And this will apply to you even if you're not recording bands professionally, even if you're just recording out of your home studio. I've been to so many of my friends' home studios that are a complete disaster. They don't know what inputs are going where. There's cables everywhere. They don't know what cables are an instrument cable, which ones are speaker cables. But let's not even mention what their DAW sessions look like. And the thing you have to remember is when it comes to creativity, you want to be in a constant state of flow. You don't want anything slowing you down. And not being able to find the proper cabling or microphone or instrument, that will slow you down. And sometimes you'll lose ideas that way. It's happened to me a ton in the past. Now, if you are recording bands for a living, this will affect you even more, and it's more important for you. If you have clients waiting in the studio, your gear better work. You better be efficient. Let's say you're feeling ultra creative one day and you want to try a new microphone technique. Wouldn't it be nice to know where all of your microphones are, where all of your cables are, what the proper lengths are? Maybe you could even have certain microphones set up 24/7 at all times so you could just simply grab it and go. Things like that go a long way. So again, now that I have everything broken apart, I've decided to take my systems to the next level. Let me give you some examples here. All right, so here we are. My entire studio's worth of gear, all in this one giant empty warehouse space. As you can see, here's my snake. And now that my snake is all torn apart here, I will be relabeling the inputs down here. Normally I have a headphone connected on channel A, and my reamp box out is on channel D. And up until today, I had some old labeling on there that I haven't used in, 10 years. So I figure what better time to relabel it than now. I'm redoing all my wiring from scratch. I really don't have a choice. I mean, they had to put in a new carpet, so I had to take everything out. There's my patch bay, my interfaces, monitoring system. So like I said, even though it sucked that I had to do this and I had to bring everything into this space and start from scratch, I was kind of pumped. And here's an example here. So here is my patch bay. Now I previously had this connected just so I had more flexibility. But what I've decided to do since I'm starting this entire rig from scratch is I decided to add another 8 channels of inputs to my rig. So we're talking a total of 24 inputs. Now, in all honesty, I have rarely ever needed any more than 16 inputs, but nowadays I have Ben, my friend Ben Karras, doing a lot of recording for me, and Ben loves to experiment with different microphone techniques on the drums. And I don't want him to be limited by my minimalist approach to recording, so I decided to add another 8 channels of audio or inputs to my rig, and this patch bay is going to come in handy. And like I said, I already had it connected, but since it's all taken apart, I'm going to change up the input list here and add additional inputs. And that's why you see this green tape. I'm going to add a couple more pieces of tape just to label it. I didn't even start labeling yet, but that's what I'm in the process of doing right now today, before I bring everything back into my studio after the carpet has been placed down again. So again, if I didn't take everything apart, I'd probably hesitate doing this because it's a pain in the ass to take the rig apart, but now's the time to do it. My desk, which I've had since 2005, 6? I think 2006, is completely taken apart. And it's offering me a great opportunity to clean it. And yes, it was mighty dirty. It's been in this building for 15 or 16 years. And it needed a cleaning. And so what better time to do it than when it's completely taken apart. Got drums, Frankenstein, which needs a little bit of a dusting. So another example here. I own all of these boom mic stands, right? And what's annoying, especially since I'm in a really small space, my studio's not that big, like I said, it's in a room that's 17 by 17, is that it's very hard to tell which is a smaller boom stand, which is a larger boom stand, and which boom stands are the ones that are just straight without the arm. So what I decided to do is color code them. And right now I've gotten all of the traditional boom stands color coded, and they have a green piece of tape attached to one of the legs. So from now on, at a glance in the studio, if we have a band in, if we need a regular boom stand, bam, the one with the green tape is the traditional boom stand. And the mini boom stands are gonna have a pink piece of tape attached. So if we need a small boom stand, bam, you can grab it and you know the one with the pink piece of tape attached is the smaller boom stand. And then the straight boom stands are gonna have orange pieces of tape attached to the legs. Now I know to a normal person this might seem like overkill, but believe me, when you're in the moment and you know the drummer is smashing away on the drums even though you tell him not to, it's great to have everything in place. You know where everything is. You know, okay, the green is my regular boom stands, the pink are my smaller boom stands, and the orange are my straight stands for room mics and things like that. Because right now everything is nice and spacious, but when this all gets crammed back into my small space, it will make a difference, especially when working with clients. Now another example here, if you see these two cubes, these will end up in one of my shelves. Now I used to keep all the microphones within one of these cubes, and it's getting a little crazy now that Ben is bringing microphones and now that I brought a few more 57s to the studio. So what I've decided to do, if you look here, it's kind of dark. One box is labeled dynamics and the other box is labeled condensers. So now we know if we want to get, crazy and add some extra room mics, if we need condenser mics, boom, we know it's this box. If we need an additional SM57, bam, it's in this box. Now, even though I was organized before and I had all my mics in one place, when you're in the moment, people are being loud, guitar players are playing, and drummers are smashing away on the drums, it's really convenient to just know where each type of microphone is at a quick glance. No more guessing. Another example here. So now that I'm adding another 8 channels of audio for a total of 24, I have an additional snake that I'm adding to the rig. So I was using this snake for live use, and just today I took off all of the old labeling and I just added some new tape that I'm gonna relabel with the proper input numbers. So that way, in a busy session, if we wanna add a couple more room mics and we wanna add it to channel 3 on the third interface, all we have to do is look at the labeling, boom, channel 3 on interface B. There's no testing the inputs to see which one are going to what interface. Everything is clearly labeled, and we could just be creative and get right to work within the studio. And I just stopped home for lunch, and while I was home, I grabbed some more tape for extra color coding. So anything that I neglected to color code in the past before we did this, before I had the new carpet put in the studio, I will do today before I lug everything back in and rewire everything throughout the rest of the week. Now, like I mentioned, these are things that people rarely talk about in the gear forums. Everyone wants quick fixes, mixing templates, plugin settings, but no one talks about creativity and being efficient within your studio. All right, the carpet is done. Did a good job. You should have seen what this floor looked like when they pulled up the old one. I wanted to get footage of it, but they were really busy in here. You had to do a bunch of patching. I mean, this building is, I'm pretty sure it's over 100 years old, so a lot of wear and tear. Now, the only bummer is I've been hanging out here waiting for them to finish, and he just told me that due to the humidity, I shouldn't really bring anything in this room till tomorrow. So I just bought that crazy coffee for no reason. That's all right. I'm just happy this is done. And as you can tell, the soundproofing is in pretty bad shape as well. We're gonna be replacing it in about a month. Now, yes, for anyone who's watching, if you're an acoustic treatment snob, I know that this is not proper soundproofing, but you know what? I don't really care, because you can make any space work if you know what you're doing, and especially if you know the space well. And I've been recording in this space now, like I said, for 15, 16 years, which is a long time. This foam soundproofing, pretty much, obviously it's not real soundproofing, but what I like about it is that it deadens the space just enough so the room isn't crazy splashy as if there, if I just had drywall and that's all, like bare drywall. It deadens the room just enough, but there's still a lot of life to this room. So this room's got a really bombastic sound to it, but it's also very live sounding. And it might even be a little more live sounding because this carpet's a little thinner than the original carpet that was here. The original carpet had some foam stuff underneath. And yeah, just getting creative, like having those room mics, I don't know if you can see, it's kind of dim in here. I have these room mics that are permanently fixed in the upper corner of the room, and I usually keep a PZM in this corner behind the shelf that normally sits there. Yeah, you just get creative with your room mics, point them away from your kit so you have a nice diffused sound, and you can make any space sound big. This room is about 17 by 17. It's close to a square. Now, because this building is so old, I talked to the owner and he told me it's probably not a perfect square and the walls are probably not parallel, which is actually really good for recording. But again, I really don't care about any of that stuff. I actually prefer to record in non-studio spaces. To me, it's much more interesting. You have to get creative, and I just like that process. Nothing against pro studios. They're cool. I like recording them as well, but I don't know. My best drum recordings are always done in this room. I know it might sound ridiculous to a gear snob or a studio snob, but it's true. I've never had anyone complain, and 90% of my projects are done here. I can do anything here. So yeah, so it looks like I'll be coming back tomorrow to load all my gear in. I'm kind of bummed. I wanted to have my rack all set up at least tonight, but it is what it is. So if you're a studio owner, or even if you're just working out of your own home studio, working on your own music, think of ways where you could be much more efficient, just more productive in general within your studio. In other words, template your studio, just like you would create a mix template or a plugin preset. The idea is you want to get right to work. You don't want to be bogged down by technology or gear or things like that. If you have a song idea, you want to be able to plug in, record that idea. If you want to record a vocal, you want to be able to just, set up your vocal mic, or ideally have it set up already and just capture the magic while it's fresh. So I just thought I'd make this video because it's a topic that I don't see covered enough. People talk about it a lot in business books and podcasts and things like that, but I just don't hear studio people talk about it enough, or musicians talk about it enough. And when I started implementing this mindset within my own work and my own studio, trust me, it made a massive difference. As a matter of fact, that's one of the main compliments I get from clients. They're always like, oh, you're so quick, you're so efficient. And it really comes down to how I run my studio, which is exactly what I'm showing you here. So if you're a messy person like I am by nature, give some of these ideas a shot within your studio. I think you'll be amazed by the results. If you found this video helpful, like, comment, subscribe, and share. And do not forget to click the little bell icon so you can be notified every time I upload one of my weekly videos on all things metal and rock production. You can both like and follow me on Facebook and Instagram. Links are in the description below. And be sure to download my free guitar cab impulse response. It's of my favorite oversized Mesa Boogie cab out of my studio, which is sitting right back here, which I'm mic'd with an SM57 on the proper spot of a V30. Download it, load it into your favorite amp plugin, and get right to dialing in killer metal guitar tone with ease. And also, if you'd like to check out some Frightbox merch, there's a link below in this video's description. Right now, I've got t-shirts and other cool stuff that'll be showing up along the way. Till next time, happy recording.